President Ramattar welcomes the setting up of a drug enforcement agency office locally. A new Brazilian ambassador is accredited, and the head of state expresses appreciation for the contribution by small business to the local economy. We'll have the details of these and other presidential activities in this week's edition of the Diary for the period June 21 to June 27. I'm Paul McAdam. The local economy has received tangible input from small business, says President Ramattar. The Small Business Development Finance Trust held its 11th annual general meeting on June 23rd. Head of State President Ramattar noted the administration's appreciation towards small and medium-scale businesses and their contribution towards Guyana's growing economy.
I want to thank them for the committed service they provide to their clients, including small producers, retailers, and consumers in Guyana. In providing this service, it contributes greatly to supporting the economy and the general development of Guyana, and for that, I'm very grateful.
He said that the contributions made by these entities and other enterprises have often been overlooked or unacknowledged. Government, he said, is appreciative of the positive impacts made by these entities.
There is today a proliferation of small businesses and small enterprises who are producing goods, services, and creating employment, very importantly, for thousands of our people. Job creation has been the most signal contribution of small and medium-scale enterprises to economies of many countries. In the European Union, for instance, as much as 2/3 of the workforce is employed in small and medium-scale enterprises. It is the small business sector today that is an integral part of the economic recovery in the United States of America. This is the vital role small businesses play, both in good as well as in challenging times.
According to the president, himself a trained economist, small businesses serve as incubators for entrepreneurial talents.
If you read the story about those who developed Facebook, if you read the story about the Twitter people, Steve Jobs and all of those, they started out extremely small with a good idea. And it also shows you too that with technology and with some assistance provided by organizations like this, that one can leapfrog from being very small to being extremely huge.
The Small Business Development Finance Trust has been operating for the past 11 years and has been providing financial assistance to persons for the expansion and opening of small and medium-scale businesses. The president says that government has long recognized the constraints to small business development, hence the piloting of a Small Business Act in 2004, which provides legislative architecture to develop the sector. The fact was explained when he addressed the annual general meeting of the Small Business Development Trust during the week. Then there was the launch of the establishment of the Micro Small Enterprise Development Project, which is being funded under the Low Carbon Development Strategy, and which is aimed at providing financial and support, including grants and otherwise, for collateral for micro and small businesses. A major impediment, the president said, however, remains the lack of cheap, reliable energy.
If we have cheap energy in our country, we can develop a powerful processing sector in Guyana, agro-industrial sector in our country. As you all know, fundamentally our country is an agricultural country. And if we want to use our agriculture as a raw material base for industrialization, we need to have cheap energy.
It was pointed out that the $9 billion currently spent to subsidize electricity annually could be used to solve some of the challenges affecting communities across Guyana.
Some of the problems of garbage, some of the problems of drainage, some of the problems of roads. We can deal with those things. Our problem will be having enough contractors to do the work that will be necessary. But that is not the only savings that we will have. You will save, because from the moment hydroelectricity, or what was envisaged at the Amila Falls hydroelectric power, your electricity bill will go down between 20 and 40%. And it will keep going down the longer it operates. And it is envisaged that in 25 years, the cost of operating that will only be the operating cost, which means that we can provide cheap energy for you. And that is, your disposable income will increase.
All must lend their voices to support this project, which will transform the lives of all Guyanese, the president insisted.
This is not government's business alone. This is everybody's business. And if we all want our country to develop, we all must make our voices heard.
Guyana has a new Brazilian ambassador.
New Brazilian ambassador to Guyana, Linio Popo de Paula, on June 25th, presented his letters of credence to President Donald Ramotar.
Our bilateral cooperation program is wide-ranging and focuses on the priority areas of our national development agenda. The common positions we consistently share on several issues on both regional and international agenda also provide a solid foundation for us to maintain a long and lasting relationship. Within recent times, we have given new impetus to these relations through various initiatives, especially in the area of infrastructure development.
The president added that it is his hope that these relations will lead to not only increased prosperity between the two countries and people, but will also take them one step closer to the shared vision of an integrated South America, citing the Takatu Bridge as an excellent example of the many benefits which could be derived from improved physical links between the two neighboring countries.
We have seen the increase in people-to-people contact and enhanced commercial and other exchanges between our two countries. Certainly, the paving of the road link between our two countries will allow us to fully realize our trade potential. I am pleased to note that the people-to-people contacts and cooperation have led to an increasing mutual understanding and appreciation of our respective cultures. Brazilian cuisine, which I'm fond of, and music are now popular features in our country's social life. This, in my view, is a true representation of regional integration, a vision which my government embraces.
The new Brazilian ambassador noted that since the establishment of diplomatic relations between Guyana and Brazil, bilateral relations have developed through mutual understanding and trust, building cooperation in technical and military areas.
The Guyana-Brazil Joint Commission for Infrastructure in 2012, with projects in transportation and energy fields, will promote economic and development in both countries. I will devote myself to further foster these projects.
The recent move by Guyana to introduce Portuguese into the school system formally was welcomed by the ambassador, who described it as an important step for regional integration.
The Brazil-Guyana Cultural Center that we have here near the embassy will also continue to offer Portuguese classes to cater for the growing interest of young Guyanese in our language and our culture. I am convinced that we will be able to strengthen the cooperation between our two countries so as to meet the aspiration for our people for a prosperous region. I hope that during my term as ambassador, we will see more evidence of these growing links between our two countries. And I am sure, of course, that we can count on the support of the Guyanese people to our national team in Brazil, that I hope, I'm sure, we will win the World Cup. Okay?
The new ambassador takes over from 6 years the Andre, who began his tour of duty in September of 2009.
You're watching The Diary. We have been recapping the highlights of the country's president's weekly activities. More after the break.
By cutting the administrative arm of the Office of the President's funding, the allocation for the provision of the Head of State Security has been removed. This action can compromise the security of President Donald Ramotar. This move sets a dangerous precedent and is unacceptable for any head of state, government, or right-thinking people of a democratic nation. The disapproval of funds by the political opposition for the Ministry of Finance's administrative arm means that students wishing to attend the University of Guyana will not be able to access any loans for 2014. The move will prevent many students who are unable to pay cash from studying and having a tertiary education. Most of these students are underprivileged and are unable to afford higher education to further their development and increase job opportunities.
Government's efforts to continue the improvement of medical services have been negatively affected by the decision of the parliamentary opposition to cut funding for the specialty hospital and the medical sector. This move means that monies for the provision of medical gear for doctors and nurses, along with new equipment for hospitals and clinics such as those at Port Kaituma, Linden, Kokwani and Bartica, and new ambulances have not been approved. This move by the political opposition will adversely affect the provision and delivery of health care in communities across Guyana.
The Government Information Agency GINA evolved from the Government Information Service and was formally launched in 2002. GINA is executing its mandate of keeping Guyanese, both locally and in the diaspora, informed of government's programs and policies pertinent to development. Cognizant of the right of Guyanese to information, GINA, through its dedicated staff, has endeavored to deliver its mandate to the best of its ability. Guyanese have every right to be informed on policies, programs, and projects which impact on their lives. The Government Information Service was in operation long before the PPPC administration took office and discharged the same mandate. GINA is a unit of the Office of the President, and its mandate is similar to other organizations around the world where governments have a fixed body to disseminate their information. GINA will endeavor to remain steadfast to its mandate and takes pride in continuing to serve the people of Guyana. GINA, information for nation building.
President Ramotar encouraged the Private Sector Commission to continue to be involved in the country's development, even as he recognized the need for improved and advanced infrastructure to further Guyana's development.
Delivering the feature address at the 22nd Annual General Meeting of the Private Sector Commission at the Pegasus Hotel, the President also congratulated the Commission for the many forward-looking positions they have taken in important areas of development for Guyana.
I'd like to thank them, as we heard just now, from the Chairman, their support for many of the transformative industries in our country, and the stands that they took on the Amila Falls hydropower project, the Marriott, the airport, and the AML CFD bill.
The President noted that the development of the country and its people must be seen as a joint effort with all legitimate groups and sectors moving forward in the same direction. This, he said, is important if the government and its people are to realize the dream of Guyana being a better place.
I know it's not easy work to always try to create a conducive environment for increased production and productivity, and to also increase and improve services in our country. Government, as you said just now, Mr. Chairman, passed a lot of legislation to try to create the legal framework for that to happen. And over the years, we have put a great deal of infrastructure in place that has, without doubt, contributed to the growth of the private sector and the development of our country as a whole.
The need for cheap, reliable energy, Supplies via the Amalia Falls Hydro Project was also highlighted, along with the need for additional infrastructure works, such as an alternative road linking the coast to the international airport at Temeri.
Right now, a feasibility study is being done for that, and I'm looking forward, once that comes out to be positive, that before the end of this year, that we can begin construction of an alternative road on the east bank of Demerara. We're also looking at the other crossing across the Demerara River, which I think is very important to help us to move many of these things along.
According to the PSE, major growth areas seen locally show a $26 billion increase. These areas include construction with an $8 billion growth, rice $6 billion, transportation and storage $5 billion, rice some $9 billion, fish and shrimp industries $2.5 billion, rum and spirits $1 billion, and livestock and poultry some $3 billion Ghana dollars.
President Ramatar has denied charges by the diplomatic community that the lack of local government elections is an undermining of democracy.
Charges were made by United States Ambassador Dr. Brent Hart and the United Kingdom's High Commissioner to Guyana, Andrew Eyre. Hart, in the most recent claim, stated this during an interview made with the Starbuck News on June 24th.
What undermines democracy is when you listen to everybody's telephone calls and read their emails and ban them from having collective bargaining in their own country in different parts of North America and Europe. And local government services here still exist, but we are ready to have it. We are always ready to have local government elections.
The president added that government does not take to being threatened, in response to a call from some opposition politicians for a no-confidence motion against the ruling administration.
If the opposition wants to pass a no-confidence bill, let them pass it and we will be ready to deal with the consequences of that. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to say that once more, despite the obstacles that are here, that we will continue to work to try to defend our country, to try to protect it.
The AFC is accusing government of having no regard for accountability after it moved to restore funds that were not approved by the National Assembly during the consideration of the 2014 national budget. This matter, however, was dealt with several times by the Minister of Finance, Dr. Ashney Singh, as well as the head of the Presidential Secretariat, Dr. Roger Luncheon.
The United States U.S. Drug Enforcement Authority, country office in Guyana, has gotten the congressional go-ahead.
The announcement was made on June 26 at a joint press conference between the President, Donald Ramatar, and U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, Dr. Brent Hart, at the Office of the President complex. The office will be stationed in the compound of the U.S. Embassy in Georgetown.
I have always expressed the view that narco-trafficking was an international problem, and for us to successfully combat that there is definite need for international cooperation to deal with this issue. And for that reason, I was plugging from the very beginning, and I left the ambassador, that this is one of the things that we would welcome here, because I would like to make our country totally inhospitable towards those who try to traffic drugs and that type of illegal activity, to use our country for that regard. So I hope that this will help us with stronger cooperation, will help us to push this forward.
The DEA's local operations will give support to the anti-money laundering bill, the President added.
It's an international initiative that came about, so we have that international obligation, but also from anyone who is against drug trafficking and narco trafficking and fighting against criminals who are involved in this activity should be happy to pass such a bill, because not passing it would be probably creating an atmosphere that they can do their business. And the whole idea is to block any loophole in every country of the world to prevent illegal and illicit gains from being laundered and to be encouraged this type of activity. So I really welcome this opportunity, this announcement and this decision of the U.S. government.
The USDEA will also support the strengthening of the capacity of its local counterparts by providing additional training support and equipment to these units to ensure that they are fully vetted and have the ability and capacity to operate locally.
Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, has been working very closely with Guyana's police force and Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit for many years, based out of its office in Trinidad and Tobago. But I've always believed that a DEA office on the ground in Guyana would allow for us to really take our counter-narcotics cooperation to an even higher level.
More of the diary after this break.
The importance of road linkages in Guyana's hinterland to propel economic growth and improve access to services is fully recognized. To this end, Budget 2014 has allocated $1 billion to rehabilitate critical interior roads, including the Linden to Lethem Road.
Government's investment in rural development will be further strengthened this year with the sum of $1 billion which has been provided in the 2014 national budget. The sum will go towards infrastructure such as roads, bridges, drainage and irrigation, and community market facilities, along with entrepreneurial activity in rural communities.
Parents with school-aged children will achieve a measure of relief with the provision of $10,000 per school year for all school children in the public schools. This from the 2014 budget is in addition to the school uniform voucher, which will continue to be distributed.
The 2014 national budget has allocated $32.3 billion for education as government continues to emphasize the sector, which has undergone significant transformation in response to the emerging needs of society. A message from the Government Information Agency.
The Government Information Agency, GINA, evolved from the Government Information Service and was formally launched in 2002. GINA is executing its mandate of keeping Guyanese, both locally and in the diaspora, informed of government's programs and policies pertinent to development. Cognizant of the right of Guyanese to information, GINA, through its dedicated staff, has endeavored to deliver its mandate to the best of its ability. Guyanese have every right to be informed on policies, programs, and projects which impact on their lives. The Government Information Service was in operation long before the PPPC administration took office and discharged the same mandate. GINA is a unit of the Office of the President, and its mandate is similar to other organizations around the world where governments have a fixed body to disseminate their information. GINA will endeavor to remain steadfast to its mandate and takes pride in continuing to serve the people of Guyana. GINA, information for nation building.
That's all in this week's diary for the period June 21 to June 27, 2014. Before we go, these were some of the highlights. President Ramata welcomes the setting up of a DEA office locally. A new Brazilian ambassador is accredited, and the head of state expresses appreciation for the contribution by small business to the local economy. Do join us again for the next program when we will bring you more of the President's activities. I'm Paul McAdam, thanking you for joining us. Have a pleasant rest of the week.